Hi everyone, my name is Jessica Dodson and I'm the Marketing Manager here at JackBe, and I'd like to welcome you to today's presentation, Making Real-Time Intelligence Portable to Deliver Real-Time Operational Dashboards Where Your Users Want Them. Before we get started, I just want to go ahead and review some logistics. First, we are recording today's presentation, so we will make the recording and the slides available on JackBe.com a little later today, and then also send it out to the registrants and attendees within the next 24 hours. And then also, we like to encourage an open communication line during these presentations, so feel free to type any questions that you have in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, the chat box, and we'll do our best to answer them throughout the presentation, and then time permitting, we'll have an open Q&A at the end. So let's go ahead and get started. So a little background about JackBe. JackBe's been around since 2002 and is the leading solution provider of real-time operational intelligence. You can see that JackBe's been successful with some very notable Fortune 2000 companies and then also large government agencies. Most recently, we were mentioned in the Gartner BIMQ as a new up-and-coming player in the BI space. Today's special guest is John Cruci, Chief Technology Officer here at JackBe. In John's former life, he was the CTO of Sun Sewing Practice and also a Sun Distinguished Engineer. John is the co-author of core J2 ET patterns and also a well-known speaker, writer, blogger, and two-time Washingtonian tech titan. So here's the quick agenda. We'll start the presentation with reviewing the impact of today's shrinking decision window. Because everything is moving to more of a real-time nature, today's app and dashboard delivery pillars must change. That also requires a shift to an enterprise app store approach. We'll also discuss why the big three, which we're qualifying the big three as SharePoint, portals, and mobile, need one approach. And then we'll conclude today's presentation with the benefits of real-time operational intelligence. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to John, and he'll start today's presentation.
Thanks, Jess. Okay, so we want to give you just a sense of the types of problems that we're talking about here and the nature of all the change that's happening now. We like the term the shrinking decision window, and it may have been coined by Aberdeen, but it's really talking about where we used to be in terms of being able to solve problems and get information, make decisions, and where we're heading now. So let me just give you an example of how this is really starting to move. We used to be able to take months to be able to look at information. So we have many documented cases where customers they would have teams of people who would just have information dumped into spreadsheets and would go and aggregate, correlate, do whatever they could for whatever period of time, and then 3 months later produce a report. Well, as decisions or the shrinking window continued to shrink, then we would get it down to 1 month, and that was a big leap. That was basically reducing it dramatically to get this information, because the reason that you would need this information in a shorter period of time is that you had to make decisions that were relevant within that time frame. Then it continued on, of course, and getting down to a week. Many of those situations are very attuned to many people looking at information. As the compression or the shrinking decision window keeps moving, you have a lot more people who are looking at the information and are actually being measured on this information. So the time to get it, make the decisions, of course, are impacted. And as we just move on, of course, we get into the single day, and then we get into hours, and then ultimately people want to see information as it's happening. And this may be a cause of just the types of data that they're looking at, but it's not only that. It's really talking about more of the real-time enterprise, where organizations are understanding now that they're seeing information or need to make decisions as data is happening, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So Aberdeen talks about this, and they talk about what's the decision-making that requires to drive towards near real-time information or real-time. When we talk about real-time, we're talking about business real-time. As data is changing, people need to see it. Of course, we're talking in the business side of lots of different pieces of information that's changing. Some may be changing every hour, every day. Some may be changing every minute. You put it all together, and you have a whole bunch of moving parts. So as part of the report, they talked about the business really looking at getting information, being able to get it within the day, or 10% there within the hour, and some within minutes. And this is really growing in terms of the number of people that want to be able to get information. So they're looking at, well, how can we do this? How can we get data faster? How can we get information together? Because it's not just data we're talking about here. It's the ability to get actionable information to make decisions. Well, if you look at on the bottom here, what's the average time that it takes for IT to support requests for traditional BI? Time to build a new dashboard, 30 days to build. And that's probably a pretty aggressive approach here. Imagine if you needed a new dashboard and you wanted to monitor information, you had to wait 30 days. If you could even get on the docket. And then the time to add a new column to a report is on average 8 days. Now you can just see here, you may look at this, well, we need to speed up IT, or you may look at it as, is really this the requirements that should be over in IT? Should we start handing this over to the business so that they can do a lot of these things themselves versus having to rely on IT to do everything? Okay, so now we're going to go into, we want to hear from you. We want to hear, what are you working towards? The solutions that you're building, not necessarily the old solutions, but the new solutions you're building. We want to hear what's the decision window that you're trying to have the information available. Do you need the information in months? Is that good enough for the type of solution that you're building? Or is it down to days or weeks? Or do you need information as it's happening? And that's our definition, and many of the analysts as real time. So as we're waiting for you to enter information, we'll just get a quick fix and see how you're responding, and hopefully many of you will skew mostly on information as it's happening, because this is really mostly about real-time intelligence and being able to get information faster. Okay, so we're almost done, about another 10 seconds or so. Most of you are in. Okay, so we have basically, good. A nice majority of you are information as it's happening. We like that. And we also like how that sounds, too. That's not something we came up. That's something that our business customers tell us. They just want to see information as it's happening. So 63% say that. Days, 21, weeks, of course, going down to months. So we're going to really be focusing on the as information is happening, and show you the different new architectures and techniques, and then we'll give you a demonstration of how we do it with Presto. So why can't you wait? What's wrong with having information that's due that you can get in 3 days or 3 months, or why do you really need information now? Well, much of this really goes down to KPIs, indicators, and metrics that traditionally we could look at KPIs and metrics maybe every 3 months. We could look at it maybe down to a month, but now if we're being measured on things, then that means that there's KPIs and metrics and things we're looking for that are literally happening throughout the day, throughout the minute, throughout the hour. And these are good examples of the types of customers we have and what they're looking at. When you're looking at cybersecurity, can you wait 3 months to see if there's a potential vulnerability before your network is infiltrated? Or what about if you're running data centers for service providers? You have hundreds or thousands of businesses running on it, and you don't know what's happening until a few days later. Are you going to lose revenue because your customers are going to go to the competitor? Can you even afford to not be plugged into information as it's happening and understand it? So these are not just looking at the information, but the global impact. You talk about risk and safety. Twitter, as we'll show you, is becoming a huge source of not just competitive information from a commercial sector, but also part of the public safety, because we're looking at risk and lives and people and all these things that people are responsible for, organizations and governments are responsible for, have teams and teams of people that traditionally have gathered the information, put it together, and presented it. And even by the time they've gotten to the point, it's so far out of date, it's relatively worthless. Now, what's the trend that's happening here? Because as many people say in software, typically anywhere between every 6 and 8 to 10 years, it seems like the same thing happens over and over again. that there's always talk of a new killer app. There's always talk of being able to do things that if you do the Wayback Machine, you'll see there's a lot of discussions about things maybe 5 to 7, 8 years ago that we're talking about today. And that's really true that if you actually go and do a search on real-time intelligence, you'll see back in 2007 or so there was a lot of discussion about real-time intelligence and operational intelligence. It was a really hot topic, but it sort of went dormant for about 5 years. And that's because when technology isn't there, when the ubiquity isn't there, when all the infrastructure isn't there, it's not going to hit the masses. But when it does, it hits it big. So if you look at the 90s with portals, that used to be extremely hot. Portals, as many of you remember, were designed to really sort of be app stores back then. There was this vision that you would be able to have all these different apps, portlets that were built, and organizations can create portlets to make them available to the customers. There was an idea that companies would sell portlets to make them available to companies. Well, just like anything else, that was the vision, but when it came down to reality, people saw that a portal was a nice way for an enterprise to enter into an organization, put everything that they owned, have security and governance, and unfortunately became pretty much a big dumping ground of everything you had that you needed a central point of access. So it didn't really fulfill its promise, but then, look at email. Look at how as soon as email really broke out of just the enterprise and became ubiquitous, it was the killer app in the business. This is why BlackBerry was so popular, RIM, that you could do things that you traditionally had to do in your office, but now you can do them on the go on a mobile device. And now we're seeing apps and dashboards to have the same impact. Not only can we have portal-like features on mobile and have email, but we have the ability to actually do business operations while we're on the road, while we're getting off the plane, while we're even on the plane, all secure end-to-end, and this is what we think is really, really going to drive the next wave. So as we like to call it, the big three, and this is what we see, we capture from our customers. What are the destinations for solutions like this? When we're talking about real-time operational intelligence or operational intelligence, we're talking about solutions. We're talking about things that teams of people are monitoring, making decisions on. They may be down at the operator's level, could be rolled up to what we call the operations middle, and this is where there's a whole middle ground of people, a middle management that are responsible for aggregating and rolling up and looking at information. And where do they put this? And where does it go? Well, it's going into the portal again. The portal is turning out to be yet another big destination for these types of solutions. However, we're not seeing it from a corporate portal perspective. We're seeing, products like LifeRay really, really hitting the market by storm because they're so easy to use. It's so easy to use and it's so agile that you could literally stand up a LifeRay portal as fast as you could stand up SharePoint and start building really, really new generation applications in it that adhere to the latest standards. And so that's why we see a lot of action in LifeRay as being more departmental or corporate solution portals. We're not necessarily talking about corporate portals across the organization, but really housing solutions. Well, what's another one? SharePoint. Many of you on the phone and many of our customers all of a sudden have SharePoint throughout the organization. That is now the standard, whether it's 2007 or 2010. And so that means that your solutions now have to run in SharePoint. And many, many new solutions, whether it's HR or manufacturing operations or real-time intelligence, competitive analysis, whatever you have it, need to run in SharePoint. And of course, the new one, mobile, which is probably taking everybody by storm, these aren't mutually exclusive by any means. These are the big three where we're going to live for probably the next 5 or 10 years. That means that we want to be able to assemble these things quickly. We don't want to wait for 30 days to go to IT to create it as a dashboard. We want to be able to create it ourselves. We want to deliver it anywhere or use it anywhere. We want to do it any time. So everything we're talking about is how do you have an architecture and a platform that allows you to create apps and dashboards very quickly according to standards, end-to-end security, and have them automatically, or automagically as we like to say, run in all these different destinations without having to write. No code rewrite, no ability to reassemble. They just run in all these places. Same behavior, same real-time data, same security that all the apps all the systems are using. Okay, so now we want to hear from you. We want to hear where are you focusing on in terms of the solutions. Now you can select one or more of these. What's the target? And if the target for the new solutions is just really going to be in your SharePoint or your portals, just select that. But if it's going to be in all of these, then select those as you have it. And the one on the bottom there, embedded in custom solutions, is actually something that's growing too, but isn't talked about as much. Embedded BI or embedded solutions. This is where you're able to take what we're doing here, and we just showed you in the big three, but it may be running in your custom application. And all these technologies and all the things that we're talking about here are just as embeddable in custom solutions as they are in your portal or SharePoint. Okay, so let's see what it is, and there it is. Number one, portals, as suspected. And just send us a little chat in the window down there if your portal. Just tell us what your portal is, that you can see the chat window on the side of the webinar. Tell us if it's Library or it's in your existing corporate portal. We're interested to know. But portals are just as hot now as they ever were. But the new generation of solution portals, and look at tablets coming out of nowhere to be able to run these, and tablets ahead of smartphones, which is exactly what we see. Why? Because you have the real estate, you have the form factor that lends it to more solutions-oriented applications, and especially dashboards. And embedded is high up there too. So it's all looking good. SharePoint's good. SharePoint's a little ahead of smartphones. So hopefully we're on the mark with what we're talking about today. Okay, so just want to give you some idea. People seem to like, things in terms of architecture and pillars. What are the things you think about? And already it's starting to be, well, we now have these three destinations, including embedded being one of the three or four, and we don't want to have to go and rewrite these. It's very expensive if you have to get a SharePoint developer, a portal developer, and a mobile developer, and say we want to build the same app for three destinations. It's not going to scale, first off. It's really not even necessary anymore because of standards like HTML5, and the browsers are so good. Security has really gotten to the point where we can run securely end-to-end no matter where we are or the devices we're on. So here we created 5 pillars just for you to think about for apps and dashboards. And think about a dashboard, just a collection of apps that are put together in context. So we believe that apps and dashboards need to be able to run unchanged in portals, mobile devices, and SharePoint. That's right. So if you create these, you shouldn't have to change them to run. Now, with the caveat that iPad especially has raised the bar on what these things look like. So you can't just take what you have for your desktop and run it in the same look and feel in the tablet. You have to conform to the different destinations, which is the trick here, and you have to leverage the look and feel and the behaviors of that platform, or else it'll be rejected. So that means even though the same app is running in those different destinations, it'll have a slightly different look and feel that's more accustomed to the device or the platform it's running on versus one generic look and feel. It may be contrary to what your organizations traditionally have done, but our experience is your users and customers will demand it. And the developers shouldn't require a different skill set for each platform. We can push out web parts as easily as we can push out portlets as easily as we can push out straight HTML5. It's all browser technology. It all needs to conform to that. You don't need to have a different skill set. And these dashboards like we're talking about that we'll show you can be embedded anywhere. You can literally send out an email with the link to a dashboard, click it on your tablet, and then run it right from your tablet without any coding required. And the end-to-end security is key. Probably the #1 fear of an organization is if I open up my mobile device, by the way, that's flooding enterprises, not just bring your own, but also issued by organizations, that how do I control end-to-end security? And we'll show you today, and we'll talk about more of a hybrid approach to reduce the number of native apps that you have on the mobile devices to get that same end-to-end security that you get in the intranet. And then lastly, the data-driven apps and dashboards, we believe, should be driven more by mashup-style technology than integration, a.k.a. writing code to integrate. So the technology now lets you point and click and connect into these data sources securely. If they're data-driven, you should be able to get the information, mash it up, and deliver it to these apps, because most of the information we're talking about is mostly data-driven. Okay, so a lot of talking. Now we're going to show you something. And what we were going to do, we're going to switch to our Super SC, John O'Brien, and he's going to show you, along with our helper Sarah on the West Coast, we're in the East Coast, and we're going to show you what it looks like to have the same app that runs in all three destinations. So, John, take it away.
All right, this is John. We've got going here the Presto app depot, and I've got thumbnails and a little information on each of the apps that we can run in each of these devices. So in a few minutes, we'll just show a nice app that taps into recent data from the District of Columbia and ties in with Twitter. And this is one we call Social Media and Crime. And I wanted to show it here in the App Depot because this is where we can do things like rate it and make things favorites, and people can tie it in. And you can also see which ones are approved for running on tablets or phones. So not all apps, of course, you want to put on those devices. So let's go ahead and see it right here. If we switch over, we've got a nice mashup where we're getting Google Maps information, and it's showing recent crime incidents here centered around, really within just one area of Washington, D.C. We focused in on that and allowed it to filter, and I can see a sort of crime activity. And right below that, we're pulling in real-time data from the Twitter API. So it summarizes it to show tweets from that same area, basically a 5-mile radius around the White House is what we picked. But you can set that and set that parameter how you need, and we get tweets, and then I can drill in and see, if I see any interesting ones, to see what they're saying and get the details.
Well, luckily, for the cherry blossoms, it seems like crimes are bounded outside of the White House there, so that's good for anybody coming to visit. No crime right at the White House. Very good.
It is good up here. The Secret Service is doing their job. We appreciate that. Let's look at this same dashboard or social media and crime in other devices. So we've got this deployed on a local LifeRay instance here, and you can see it's the same interactive tool. And let me scroll down and see some of the other information that Presto can deliver right in the same page, same dashboard, so you don't have to go anywhere else. It's not just maps and individual crimes or tweets. It's also a nice summary, so you can get some real-time analysis to see the recent crimes grouped by offense type, theft, robbery, burglary, things like that, and also see what the hashtags are in those tweets. So for the last 100 or so tweets from that area, what are they saying? Things like hear the incident, and even below that we can see some trending. Trending is also great. What hours of the recent hours are getting the most tweets, and how is the crime reports coming in here on the column chart. Now I just want to flip over and see this.
So you want to show how the app gallery, I think that was in there, where you were able to pull this in?
Yeah, great point. This is one of the things we showed the App Depot, and as someone with privileges in LifeRay logged in here, I can just use a nifty add-in that will give us that same gallery. So here are the same 6 apps that I had deployed in what we call our App Depot, and here they are. You can pick from the same gallery and just drop them right in a LifeRay.
Right, so you don't have to go to Presto to get the app gallery. You can put it right in your solution, no matter where it is.
Exactly. So people who are working in LifeRay and have privileges, put privileges to one. Add things to LifeRay pages and have access to these apps and this data in Presto. We've got the single sign-on that they can just pull it right in and add, so that if they need to put more components on their dashboard, they can do that right away. Good question. And here we have the same sort of information updated in SharePoint, and we'll get into more of this later. But this, if we scroll all the way down, we can see a few more items that are showing number of tweets by user ID if we want to, who's really tweeting a lot, and also the number of incidents by ward. So what I want to do now is we've shown the portal, we've shown SharePoint, we showed how easy it is to pull things in.
And nothing was changed. It's the same app, just in those destinations,
Exactly.
right? And it's a native web part in SharePoint and Portlet and like, right?
Mm-hmm. And this is pulling real-time, up-to-the-minute data from various sources using Presto's native ability. What I want to do is find our mobile road warrior Sarah to show this on her iPad. So let's see if we can switch presentation over to Sarah.
Good morning, everybody. I know it's afternoon your time, but as they said, I'm in California, so I'm still on my second cup of coffee this morning. Can you all see my screen now? John, is it up?
Yep, we're all set. We can see it.
Okay. I'm just going to show you the exact same app that John showed you just a few seconds ago, but this is running on my iPad. For mobile users, it starts with Presto Mobile, which is this app here in the upper right corner. And if I can get into it. Oh, good. There we go. So Presto Mobile is an app. Your mobile users download it just like they do from the App Store for any other app. It allows them to log into their local mashup server posted wherever they are today at this moment, or like me, to log into the cloud from California. They sign in with their credentials, so you have all the security information. And Presto Mobile acts sort of like an app launcher or a mobile edition of the App Depot. It lets users find the same apps if they're mobile compatible, open them, add them to favorites, comment, etc. Here I'm going to just show you the app that John showed you about crime and tweets, and open the app. This may take a little second or two here because I'm coming from California. But as you see, it comes up. Users get the same ability to change exactly what information they want to see. And once they apply that, it will start to load the app. And we get to see this, but in a look and feel that mobile users are used to working with, all without anybody having to change code or recompile or anything awkward. Just deploy your app and it shows up where it's supposed to. And here we have the same map. It works just like any other Google map in a mobile tablet. You can see particular information about specific points and so on. In this case, all of the other information is showing up as tabs. So let's take a look at our detailed view, and as we can see, John quickly is showing up here. If I select that and I go to the detail tab, what I will see is details about exactly what John tweeted. Users get to different tabs using flips just like they're used to, so we can see the crime stats by date and time. And again, you get the charts very much like what you're used to seeing. Like mobile, when you click on something, you can get more detail if you need to. And let's change and try the last one, the tweets by hour graph, and see if we can see the line chart to give you the trending and so on. And as you see, it's just very much like what they see in the desktop, but anywhere they need to go. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over back to Jess so that they can go on with the rest of what they need to show you.
Great, thanks, Sarah.
You're welcome.
And that's live from the iPad, and based on what John created here. But important that you may have seen, you'll see that the look and feel is a bit different on the iPad, that it had more of the tab approach. It had, many of you are asking that about Flash versus HTML5. Well, we'll automatically detect where you're coming in from, and if your platform supports Flash, it'll pull Flash. but any of the iOS devices that come in, it detects that and uses HTML5 visualization. So you don't have to choose anything specific or do anything specific. As time goes on and visualizations and graphics get better, which they're going at an exponential rate in HTML5, we envision that HTML5 will be the prominent visualization framework of choice. So it's we pick it on the fly, we choose it on the fly, nothing you have to do, and it automatically adapts to not only landscape but also portrait. Okay, so as you saw that, the real idea here is that there's a shift, right? Many of us who have done this for a while have talked about app dev, have talked about applications. Now, the little moniker of app, really Apple has done an amazing job here. It's a perfect metaphor for a small app that really does a few things well. It's not set out to be a big ERP system or a big CRM. Really has one or three use cases maybe at the most. And it's small, and it's single in nature and can work individually. But what in the enterprise, though, it's a bit different, right? Although in the consumer side, it's great to have, I don't know what the number is, 500,000 apps or more out there. In the enterprise, you imagine your IT organization if you had an internal app store with 500,000 native apps, and you would have to deal with your workforce and these provisioned and cleansed and wiped after they leave. I mean, it's really a nightmare. So what the approach that we have on the mobile side is a hybrid approach where you have a single native app for your organization that does the authentication in, and then you deliver the HTML5 app inside or views. Well, how do you get these things, and how do you develop them and assemble quickly, and how do you get the whole social concept behind it? So the App Store style, which is really the metaphor for how do I have a portal-like environment where all my apps can go. And not only do my apps go there, I can find them, I can look them up, I can run them. It's different than the Apple's App Store in that you don't have to download anything. Because we're talking about web-based apps here, they just run as you see them, and John will show you more about that. But you also see that you can rate these apps and you can make them your favorites. You can provide comments. The comments could go back to the development team or the person who assembled them. And not only is it just available for everybody or anybody, but in an enterprise, in a system like this, you authenticate it in. You have your LDAP or Active Directory or cat cards, whatever it may be, and you have your groups and attributes, and so you're only shown apps you have access to. And the end-to-end security not only supports security on delivering of the app, but it goes all the way down to sending your credentials to the data sources so that you only access the information that you have access to. So this App Store style metaphor is really important for how these things get delivered. Now, what does that mean in these destinations? Well, as you got a little hint of it from John, this means that the notion isn't you go to a centralized app store somewhere else and pick and choose what you want and then publish it to your site. Although you can do that, we see the use case more about using it within your environment. So if I want to create a dashboard in SharePoint, I pull up, maybe it's called My App Depot, whatever your organization names it, and it's all the apps that I have access to, that creators that I'm following, and in my group, and I can create my dashboard right there with these apps. The same thing in Portal, as John showed in LifeBreak. I have an app gallery, I pull up the apps, and I start using it. They're all live, they're all connected to live data, and the apps themselves are ready to go and ready to run with the security in place. And on mobile, it's a little different, but we believe the hybrid approach where you have the native app and you're looking at the App Depot or App Gallery, whatever you may call it internally, inside is just a very secure and optimized way to introduce mobile apps into your environment. So the style is the same, the organization is the same, but it's a very powerful metaphor in the fact that you can deliver and share and collaborate and allow all the techniques that we do on the consumer side of the house to be able to apply to the enterprise so you can get productive very, very quickly, and you don't have to wait 30 days to do these dashboards. All right, So let's talk about this in a real-world style of what does this look like to people that use environments are always worried about information that's changing. Not only is information on the go, but people are on the go. So let's talk about Joe here. Joe is a business user, but he has responsibilities for a team of people. At Starbucks in the morning, he's on his iPhone, and he's asking what his overnight sales figures are, and he's checking those out, the same things he can check out internally. Then Joe has his Joe, and he goes into the office and has a meeting, and he's looking at this big storm that's approaching, and he knows that it's going to supply shipments, but he wants to know how is the weather impacting his shipments. Are shippers reporting delays? He's plugged right into those informational sources that are tied into their information sources, so he can give answers during the meeting. And as the weather is changing, he has real-time information into the supply chain. Well, then he goes back to his, now he's actually going over to the assembly line, and he's looking at information, and he wants to know why is the production gone down on assembly line 2. Now he's not talking to people because he's actually looking at it from afar. He's going and looking at the manufacturing reporting information that's connected in, and he has an app that's showing how it's going down because there's a service repair on the conveyor belts that are happening, and they're scheduled to happen in an hour. And that's many systems that traditionally he would have to make a call and have people look through 3 different systems to find out. Well, once he's done there, he goes to his desk, and now he's looking at inventory and how it affects his day in terms of being able to deliver to his key customers in the New York City area. Now, what is Joe doing here? He's basically accessing all these different apps. You can see the variety of information he's accessing behind the scenes, though, that it's really plugging into all different sorts of systems that he has and his partner systems. And traditionally, what did he have to do? He used to have to go to anywhere from 4 to 10 different systems and call a bunch of people. Well, he's got that information. Then he has to get ready to go to the airport because he's heading out for a meeting with a customer, but he wants to know how his call centers are doing in the Southwest and the Southeast, and who's the highest rated call center rep that he has there. And this is information that's being fed right from the call center and tied to his internal systems. This is Joe's day. He's on all different devices. He's in meetings. He's at his desk. He's on the assembly line. And what is he doing? He's using the device that works best for him. He's using it where he is. It's tied into the network. He's secure, and he's getting the information as it's happening. This is the type of experience we're talking about, and hopefully this relates to some of you, or all of you, but many of the customers that you have to support. Now, one of our favorite analysts, Wayne Eckerson, he talks about this in terms of the type of workforce and today's workforce, and when they're on the go and what they look like. So if you're wondering, well, what are the types of people that really behave this way or do things like this? You can have a line manager that's always supervising by walking around and talking to people and understanding things, and they may be looking at store and employee performance or inventory and shipments complaints, a whole slew of things, and they may be scanning inventory, looking at production schedules, doing things with people. They're looking at people and products and production and customers. They have their hands full, and they always want to be able to see aggregated roll-up information or details, but they need that information as it's happening because that's their responsibility. Outside salespeople, of course, they're looking at 360 of their customers. Field technicians traveling to customer sites, and they want to be able to see operational information and support information as it's happening. And then, technicians, and there's hundreds of different types of job titles that you have. The key here is that everybody that is centered around information and people and data and things that are moving are really the biggest, or driving the biggest demand to have this information on the fly or as it's happening. So how is this done, and why is JackBe presenting this information today? Well, our product, Presto, is really providing real-time operational intelligence. And as we say, the key tenet is to be able to do real-time and plug into the live sources, which could be internal ERP systems, CRM, proprietary databases, data warehouses, as well as SaaS systems such as Salesforce or other systems, and even social media, the ability to plug into these systems that have the real live operational information is the key to what we're able to do. The self-service nature, whether it's analysts or developers or business consultants on the business side, they're the ones that want to be able to put this information together. So if that's the case, then we want to be able to have the capability so that you're able to go and support this from a customer perspective to be able to build things yourself, whether in your business unit or for customers. And of course, the portable dashboards or pervasive dashboards. Whatever I create, I may create it for my boss and then send out an email. Or my boss may create it himself, or there may be a set of people that are always assembling dashboards. That we could get down to days, maybe hours, maybe sometimes even minutes to create some of the simple dashboards. This is where this is all starting to move. Okay, so some people are asking, well, what is Presto and what is it based on? Well, from an architectural perspective, it's really based on the latest standards and technologies. It's a Java-based platform, uses all web-based technologies. It could run on the cloud. It could run in your data center. It could run in a combination of both. It's really designed to be unobtrusive, which is the new generation of systems out there. The old days of being able to say, well, I'm going to do this for you, and you just have to adhere to my API. It's reversed. You can embed systems like Presto. They can plug into all your different systems, handle the security, proxying. They can plug into your identity management system. And they're really moving information, mashing it up, and delivering the apps and portals, and dealing with the security and the governance end-to-end. So think of it as a new style of system that runs and is responsible for both the data connectivity into the live sources, the mashing of the data, and the presentation of the apps. So this live connectivity is really done for the ability to get it out to the user. So people are asking, well, how do you handle, large big data sets or large amounts of data? Now, the types of use cases that we're dealing with, if you think about operational systems, they may be pulling from systems that process large data, whether they're pulling from Hadoop or they're pulling from data warehouses or transactional systems. Those are the systems that process it. Because think about what we're showing. We're showing dashboards and operational information where the user's business has to be able to make decisions. You're not going to be showing and processing millions and millions of records on the fly to present that to the user. You're going to plug into systems that have processed it. You may be processing hundreds of thousands or 10,000s of records on the fly, but you have to get it into a form where the information is less complex so that they can make decisions on it, but also is visual in nature so they can take action on it. Okay, so how does this work? How do you do this? I know that we showed in the first demonstration, we gave you what we like to show. We always like to show social media because it's just really increasing in its value in an organization of what it can do, especially Twitter. But now what we want to do is we want to go back to John, and John's going to show you how to build a market data dashboard. And he's going to do it from the perspective of showing you behind the scenes what data is driving all this. But then he's going to show you how to actually take the apps, build them in an environment into a dashboard, connect them all up, and then run them in the different destinations again. So John, we're going back to you, and let's see what you can do here.
Okay, great. This time I'm starting in SharePoint just to give you a view of the end product, pulled together and just assembled. I like to say assembled these different components from different data sources to get a nice market watch application. So if I want to see top activity at some of the U.S. stock exchanges, I can click on NASDAQ and it shows me the top equities by trade volume. And over here on the right, the grid is showing some of the top stocks and how much they're moving. You notice this Amlin Pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, I'm wondering why they're up 48%.
48%. I should have found out about it earlier. But some of these things they turned out maybe a bit from a much larger rival, given their market confidence in what they have. So this is just showing data coming from different sources. Obviously, I've got a Yahoo Finance feed and some other market information coming in here up to the minute. So let's move over and look at how we could go ahead and assemble.
Now you're in SharePoint right now, showing this running, right?
Right. This is already deployed to SharePoint. But what I want to do is go over and see how we would assemble. So if I go back to the Presto Hub, this is our web service that's given us up-to-the-minute information on those equities, the top movers, the percent change. And this is a web service.
And this is from our buddies at XIgnite, right?
Yeah, the XIgnite partners is making this available via a great web service. And Presto is very good at tapping into that data, and it comes in fairly, not the most tabular structure, but all the data is there, so we can see it in a tree view or other. So if I want it as a grid, you can just quickly point and click, build a nice little grid app or a pie chart to make this much more visual, much more easy to understand, but still getting that up-to-the-minute data feed. So we've seen a pie chart and a grid, and what I want to show now is the tool, the web-based tool called Mashboard that allows us to, what I say, mash up or assemble different apps into a nice dashboard. So we call it Mashboard. So let me go ahead and I've got an open canvas here, and on the left I've got a list of applications for visualizations or charts or graphs, and you saw some of them before. So let me just go ahead and take and assemble some of these. So if I get top movers, by volume, I'll drag this on, and it'll go out and query it and show me the data as I build it, which is great. I get up-to-the-minute information. And let's say maybe we'll take the finance news and put it over here on the right, so I can easily get that. Notice these are, these are just taking the default inputs, and they're not really connected. They're not really wired yet. Whereas I saw it in SharePoint, they were wired. Well, this is just another kind of point-and-click, drag-and-drop operation made available by this tooling. So let's go ahead and pop into that. I'll create a new wiring, and I want the finance news to be able to tie into the selection made, which is basically saying, hey, if I select a company, move its symbol over and give me news about it. So if I get what's that, Sirius XM, right, or go back to my Amlin that's going up so much, just that easily go wire. So
John, sorry to interrupt. So people are saying they think it's what's the magic behind here. So I'll explain it because he was moving fast. Each of these apps are independent, right? They have no notion when Top Movers was built. There's no notion of the Yahoo Finance, but these are designed so that you can pass in information to them. And what John has done is that when these apps, because they're live, you can click on it. It actually exposes information, and when he's wiring it in the browser, it's actually going and just sending that stock symbol to Yahoo Finance app, and Finance app is going out and getting the data, right?
Right, exactly. So one of the great things about when you assemble these in Presto is they're aware of what the information they need. A lot of this comes from our open web standard web service capability, but you've put it into the tooling to make it really easy to wire. So if I look at just adding a couple more, we've got this dashboard that I showed in SharePoint, and it's wired with just a few more interactions. So, it filters by exchange, or if I pick, let's go back to New York Stock Exchange, find some of the apps like, Medco's up nicely today. And so it's all wired together with a few drags and clicks.
So why don't you click on the wire dialog and show the other wires that are in there?
Sure. So this has a few more so that you can click on any of those and it'll keep all the rest of them in sync.
Right.
But just the same sort of, 5-6 seconds of point and click to get a connection.
And these are point-and-click apps that you assembled. You didn't have to tell it anything about events or any of that stuff. You just made them available, and then you can connect them together.
Exactly. And those same connections will follow this wherever I have it deployed. So let's look at it in LifeRay. So we were here, right, looking at our social mashup. Let's go back to MarketWatch. We've taken and just dropped this into, or really pulled it in to LifeRay from the Presto server, and I've got that same interaction here to see data. Maybe let's look at one of these other ones now. I've got that same wiring, that same interaction right here in LifeRay. So we showed it in SharePoint, we showed it in LifeRay, and assembling it in what we call our mashboard to pick these independent components and link them together so it'll make sense. So you have that data from different sources coming in up to the minute and linked together so you can interact with it.
And this has big implications, right? Because what you're saying is somebody may be good at creating an app that is going and getting some source of information, but when I want to assemble a dashboard, this allows me to go and get things that were created by other people and put it together in my own dashboard, right? My own apps. Maybe somebody created the top movers, and I have the top trade volume, but I want to see the news. I could go and create the news and connect it all together.
Right. So what we did in a couple minutes connections, we just pulled them right into LifeRay or pulled into SharePoint, as we see here, and we have that same gallery in SharePoint. If I have a new page, I want to just use the web part. I don't know if you can tell from the borders here. This is a web part, and I can connect to one or more Presto servers and get the same gallery.
Yep.
So I'm pulling it in from my SharePoint account. I'm pulling it in from my LifeRay account, and getting all that same real-time and mashed up information.
Great, good job. Okay, thanks, John. We're gonna move on. That was a great demo. We're gonna move on, finish it up, and then answer some questions. Okay, so let's go. We're just going to do a few more slides and then probably one or two more, and then I'm going to answer questions. But as you can imagine here, if you leverage the ability with standards in a product like Presto to point and click and assemble, and if you have developers who want to create own custom apps, they can do so, and it runs unchanged in these destinations, not only can you reduce the amount it takes to go and get those apps make them available, but you reduce the time and you reduce the cost and the overhead of being able to do this. And this is really, we've been hearing about this for a decade now. We really think that now with all of this in place, we could achieve these results pretty easily. Okay, so let's go to, I think we're going to take some questions now, right, Jess?
Yeah, we've seen a lot of good questions, and I think we've got a few extra minutes, so let's go ahead and take some of them. One big one that we get a lot that I've heard frequently from people on webinars and then also prospects is, why don't you explain Presto's caching capabilities?
Yeah, so part of what people, when they hear live data or real-time data, the reality is that, like I said before, some of the data is always changing, nonstop, and you may want in your solution to have that data as it's happening. So there's no notion of caching anything. But there's other information that, in fact, may not change for a few minutes or an hour, even a day. So you have to have caching built into the system, which we do, and these are business decisions. So anybody who understands it, either from an enterprise architect to an analyst, that says this information is only changing every 10 minutes, so cache it for 10 minutes. There's no reason to go to the operational system to get it every time because we know it's not changing. And not only does that reduce the impact on some of the operational systems, but it speeds up the information resources to the user. So you have to have a caching mechanism built into this platform, and we can, in Presto, we can distribute the cache and get all the way down to a particular service that was registered in mashup and down to the operation level, and you can cache at that level. So it's very easy to do, but it's highly, highly effective because you can really raise the performance of the system dramatically, but also you can control the information load that you're having on the operational system.
Okay, great. Here's another good question that we get frequently as well. Does Presto support multi-tenancy in the sense that each user can see their own set of apps in the App Store, or can users save their own apps and then load them into their own dashboard?
Right, that's a great question. So this, unlike the consumer side where you see everything on Apple's App Store, In the enterprise, there's governance that's put in place, and that's what we call it. And what that means is when you're authenticated into your identity management system, whether LDAP, Active Directory, whatever you may use, or single sign-on, it has your credential of who you are, but also it has attributes and groups that you're in. So whenever anybody is registering or connecting to a source or creating a mashup or creating an app and dashboard, they can put governance or permission policies on it. And those permission policies could be anything from any of the VPs to anybody in this organization to if my network performance is at a certain rate, only allow this group to use it. And so that means that if I'm accessing the gallery or the App Depot, I'm only seeing apps that I have access to because I'm plugged into my identity management system. If I'm also accessing informational sources, I can have governance around that. So even I may have access to an app that's connecting into 3 systems, but all of a sudden a system has changed its permissions. I no longer have access. I'll immediately be denied access to it. So you own as a user whatever you create, but then you have to set the permissions to open it up to other people and other groups.
Okay, great. And then just another follow-up question around security for our mobile capabilities. How is the data secured in transit and then also at rest?
Yeah, right. So we're always moving information from the source into the user, with the exception of caching. And we do that. You can do it in many different ways. The data can be encrypted in transit with SSL. There's connecting into your data source. We have a concept called security profiles, where you can secure the data between Presto and your source. And that could be anything from using web service security to doing specialized encryption to be having your own proprietary encryption mechanism or security mechanism in place. So we'll let you choose whatever your system requires, and we'll lock down the data and secure it. And then we'll move it to the information based on whether it's one-way SSL or mutual SSL.
Okay, great. And we'll just conclude with one more question. And this is around the wiring capabilities of Mashboard. Can that be done programmatically in JavaScript as well as the visual wiring?
Yeah, sure. So we have an interesting feature where we can discover the events that are being published automatically. So if you didn't create the app in Presto and say you created it in your own toolkit or in your own AJAX or HTML5 toolkit or even Silverlight and Flash, you can put in a 1 or 2 line JavaScript in there and publish in your event. And essentially it's really pub sub. So you can become a publisher of events and a consumer of events. And you can have it so that your apps automatically wire themselves based on the events that are being published and consumed. Or you can make those events available to Presto so that a custom app can detect that the publishing of the JavaScript event and automatically use that to wire them together.
All right, great. I'm going to go ahead and conclude today's presentation. If we didn't get a chance to answer the questions that were available in chat, then we'll definitely reach out to you individually and try to get those questions answered. So I want to thank both Johns here and Chevy Chase for spending some time with us today, and then also Sarah on the West Coast. Thanks for waking up a bit early today to do our mobile demo. So hopefully by now you're asking yourself, well, where can I try Presto today? So very simple. We have what we call the Mashup Developer Community, which is available at jackbe.com/dev. On the home page, it's very easy. Like John said, Presto is available in a bunch of different forms, so you can just try Presto without installing it, which is available on the cloud. Then you can also try Presto by installing it and bringing in your enterprise. That's available for a 30-day trial. It's a full enterprise edition available, but with a developer license for 30 days. And then also some of the capabilities that we showed you today through Sarah, through the iPad, we do have these 2 Presto native apps that have all of your HTML5 apps available in the secure portal. So you can download that Presto app, which is called Presto Mobile, on the iPhone, or for your iPhone or for your iPad. Those are available on the iTunes Store. So again, thank you so much for your time today, and we look forward to seeing you guys at a future event. Thanks a lot.